So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Arsenal, Jesus Christ. When we played Arsenal, I was talking about Spurs. Now that we're playing Everton, I'm talking about Arsenal. Everton on the horizon at the weekend. And Sean Dyche's men on a good run at the moment since he's come in. And Unai Emery looking to get points. So what could possibly go wrong at the weekend? And I actually think that I've already done a couple of podcasts on this. And the more I think about this game, the more I'm looking forward to it. But Paddy, how are you feeling about this weekend coming up?
I'm a small bit worried about it, to be honest. We're probably hitting Everton at a really good time. New manager bounce has kicked in. Gotta say it, a good manager, an established Premier League manager over the last 10 years. One tough cookie. His teams are always hard to break down, and I'm expecting a bit of rough and tumble at the weekend. It's going to be a different type of game than what we've been used to recently. So, it's going to be an interesting one, although it's not going to be a walk in the park by any means, or not a guaranteed 3 points.
Yeah, before we go any further, I meant to actually start off the podcast by saying that there was some really, really sad news came out of the footballing fraternity today. Somebody who I grew up listening to and whose voice really was iconic in any footballing match. You know, you hear it on Match of the Day, you hear it through the BBC. You know, John Motson passed away today at 77 years of age, and it was one of those ones when I saw it, I actually stopped and I know it can be kind of glib sometimes to say this when you see it, but I actually stopped and I went, "Oh Jesus, no!" It and I stopped and I thought, must have thought for maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds, you know, going, I remember coming home from, I remember being woken up at night by my mother or my father to come up and watch Match of the Day. When Match of the Day was, I couldn't even tell you what time Match of the Day is on now, but when it was on at 10:15 or whatever at night, I don't know if it even still is. And I remember being woken up and you get up and you watch Match of the Day and John Motson would be commentating on a game. Maybe something like QPR versus Swindon or something like that, and in the first Premier League, first iteration of the Premier League, and you know it was really nostalgic. And very good commentator and somebody I think that everybody who will rally around and will say that they all have that feeling or they can all remember his voice because he did have a real iconic voice, and
absolutely
he certainly will be missed.
And I feel sorry for the newer generation that are used to having Carragher or Neville talking absolute bullshit over a commentator. And don't get me wrong, Andy Gray did the same, and Martin Tyler is just boring compared to what John Motson made football feel. He was one guy sitting there with his big Mac on, his big what would you call those coats he used to wear?
Sheepskin
coats, and and his old style microphone that come up around your lips. And if you look at all the iconic FA Cup games over the 70s, 80s into the 90s, all the commentary is all John Motson behind it, and it was just one person with the microphone, and he just had a way of calling a game. It was fantastic.
He did, absolutely. And rest in peace, John Motson, I think. And as I say, there'll be a lot of microphones out there that have had his voice go through them that will be that have had, or there've been a lot of people who've heard his voice come through a lot of microphones, should I say, that will be missing that commentary. And specifically, I think, as you mentioned there, things like the FA Cup, for sure, absolutely, he was one of a kind for absolute sure. So getting back to Aston Villa and Everton this weekend, you mentioned there, Paddy, it's going to be a different type of game. There's going to be a bit of rough and tumble, I think, in this. And I think, look, that goes with the territory with regards to a Sean Dyche team. I did preview with Dan Bardell this morning, and when we were going down looking through the team, it got me thinking that, and we spoke about this previously, I think, Paddy, as well. The couple of clubs down at the bottom of the league have, or ourselves included, when we were down there, have changed their managers at opportune and inopportune times over the course of this season. And I think Everton and ourselves are probably the only two teams that have gotten it right so far. And the reason I mentioned that is Sean Dyche looks like the perfect manager for this Everton team, considering some of the players that they have in there. Obviously, they're stout at the back with regards to Tarkowski and Cody. They've got wide players in the likes of Iwobi and Damari Gray, Dwight McNeil. And they have probably, I'd say, if you were to say what are they missing, they're missing the big beanpole striker, but they've got somebody who can play up top with maybe a Numope, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and Onana is now we know is fit today. When I did the podcast this morning with Bardell, it's not this morning, it was only a couple of hours ago with Bardell, that we weren't sure even whether Onana was playing, but I've read recently that he looks like he's going to be fit. And this team are stout and they're resolute, Paddy. And a stout and resolute team under Frank Lampard is different to a stout and resolute team under Sean Dyche.
Of course it is, and the one thing that you haven't said is how good the fans have been since Frank Lampard left.
Yeah,
I know there's a big protest on Saturday against the owners as well. Which is probably one thing that'll go in our favour. The last thing they want to be doing is taking their eyes off the prize, and the prize is that they get 3 points against Aston Villa. So we just got to play our own game, and draw them into fouls. Hopefully, pick up a couple of yellow cards and change the context of the game early on.
And it's actually interesting there, Paddy, when you mentioned that the fans have been great, and they have. And look, I know that was made over. The accosting of board members, the chasing Anthony Gordon down the street and stuff like that. And I think that was, if you want to call it, that was kind of maybe a week or 10 days of madness from some fans. And I think they all kind of banded together and they went, this is insane. What the hell are we doing? And to the best of my knowledge, now it could be completely open to correction with this. That seems to have dissipated, and thankfully it does. Nobody deserves to be chased down the street in their car over a football match. Nobody deserves to be roughed up over a football match. It's a football match.
Yeah,
and
unfortunately, every club has lunatics that are capable of doing something like that. We've all sat around them at matches, and you've thought to yourself, didn't think our fans are capable of that, but they are. So you're going to get that everywhere. If someone is going to put themselves in a position where they can be taunted or got at, you're going to have some idiot that can do it, unfortunately. But Everton's a great club. It's I've spoken about them before. I've always admired them, and they're one of those clubs that are kind of everybody's second club. They're going through a tough time, but I envisage that they will get out of this pretty easily now that they've got such a good manager and a manager capable of getting results. And it doesn't have to be pretty. It just needs to be 1-1s, 0-1s, 1-0s, and that's what Sean Dyche is capable of getting. Obviously, hasn't put a big stamp on his team just yet, but let's see how they line up the weekend, because I haven't actually seen them under Dyche, but you know what you're going to get with them. You're going to get fellas that'll run through a wall for you, and that's what he's built his. That's what he was like as a player. I actually came up against him a couple of times, so I know what he was like as a player, and he's exactly as bold and brash as he is as a manager. So it'll be interesting to see what he does to Everton. I think he's one for the long haul. I think, as you were rightly mentioning him in the same breath as Emery, it's not a stopgap. It's not something to keep them up. It's something for the long term. And I think it'll be a very astute appointment when we look back at this in a couple of years and they start to push on, especially with the new stadium just around the corner.
And I know we're focusing an awful lot on Everton at the start of this, and the reason being is because, spoiler alert, when we come to talk about Aston Villa's team and the potential team that's going to be out at the weekend, I don't think there's going to be many changes to the team that were against Arsenal. So that's why I'm kind of focusing on the Everton chat at the start here. But, you mentioned there, Paddy, that like Sean Dyche, I think, when you think about it, Everton have had a lot of their success when they've had a manager who just kind of gets the club and gets that workman mentality that the team has, that the club has. You know, you go back to the Howard Kendalls of this world. You go back to the even David Moyes. David Moyes came from Preston, I think it was. Didn't had a decent CV, didn't have a brilliant CV. I know he was being spoken about as people who thought or as a manager who could manage all right for sure, a young manager who could manage. But you know, he got the work ethic and he got that out of his team. And some teams have that kind of bring your lunchbox to work. You've got your blue collar mentality or whatever like that. I think Aston Villa have maybe kind of tried to move away from that in the past to varying different degrees. And I think bringing Unai Emery might bring that back again because of his work ethic and his ability to kind of sit there and put in the hard yards and the hours on the training ground and in the film room. But that's why I think Sean Dyche is going to be a good appointment for them, because they're an honest club. Like, and I know I'm using all these words that could sound derogatory, but they're not. They're just like the Premier League is made up of. We just watched Manchester United and Barcelona tonight. Like, Manchester United is not a Manchester club. The old adage of the road from London to Manchester is probably going to be clogged on the way home tonight. You know, after that game today. You know, with Everton, there's more of a kind of a Liverpool basis there. They're you know what I'm trying to get at here. They're a colloquial club. They're a club that has its roots firmly built into that part of Liverpool, and they need a manager that's able to get the team, get the fans behind them. I've often said in this podcast before that Goodison Park is the stadium I've been to the most after Villa Park in the UK, and it may not be the best thing to look at, and it may be falling apart in places, but there's an aura and there's a kind of a lovely kind of mystique about those old grounds as well. And as I say, I am very complimentary of Everton, and I make no bones about it. And the reason being is because they're an old school club like ourselves. They have a ton of history, have a ton of tradition, and there's a reason that we've played this game. What is it? 210 times it's been played since the inception of the Football League. So I don't think that should be underestimated or underspoken about, because history is very important, tradition is very important. And the entity and the institutions of these two football clubs are really important as well. And I want Everton to succeed, and I want Aston Villa to succeed, because they're proper football clubs.
Absolutely, and that's what we want. And I know they're going out to another soulless bowl very shortly, and things will be completely different, and they'll price real fans out of football, unfortunately. But that's the way the game has gone, and we've done it. Other clubs are doing it on a bigger scale. So, look, come 3 o'clock Saturday, I'll have zero love for Everton. But in the meantime,
absolutely,
I think we've got our point across without blowing any more smoke up their arse.
Let's talk about the Villa team, and suppose Villa for this weekend. Do you share my opinion that it's probably going to be the same team? Maybe Young in for Cash, I think, is probably the only change I'm expecting, or not expecting. That's the only change that I'm hedging that could potentially happen. Do you think there's going to be any more changes other than that?
Who am I to second guess what's going to happen? You could easily have Young and Dean back in there. You just don't know what you're going to get. I expect to see a change further up the pitch. I think he will rotate them on a weekly basis. I think we will see changes, either Buendia or Bailey or whoever comes in. I think having listened to him, Duran is not something in his plans that he's going to start any games anytime soon, but quite happy to spring him from the bench and just basically lift the tempo of the team, and that's what he's using him for at the moment. But with regards to back four, look, they're not going to change the two centre halves. They're the best two centre halves we have available. Two full backs could be changed. Two central midfielders are not going to be changed. McGinn will start. I envisage Coutinho will start after the way he played last week. Watkins is the first name on the team sheet after the last few weeks. I think he's been excellent. And then whoever, another, as we say here in Ireland, will be up beside him. But I'm expecting Buendia. to be given another chance in that role. But who knows?
I think, I like, it's too early for John Duran. He more or less said it in his press conference today as well. John Duran's
Yeah.
a player that they're going to bring along slowly, that they know what they want to get from him, and that they see a longer runway to get to it than I suppose we do as fans, which is absolutely fine. And you know what? It's kind of nice. It's not that it's nice, but it's I can take it a small bit more when the manager just comes out and says that, hey, listen, cool the jets. You're not going to see John Duran starting this weekend, essentially, is what he said today. I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. And I'll be fine with that for the rest of the season, provided that we aren't in the shite at any stage and starting eating goals. But you mentioned Bailey there as well, Paddy. This could be a game whereby he does maybe swap a Buendia out. Buendia, I think, has started the last 12 games in a row, if I'm not mistaken. Anybody else out there?
Well,
Because I remember reading a statistic, once again, open to correction. I should really check these things before I say them on podcasts. I used to be very good at that. I used to be good at having stuff like that written down before podcasts and stuff, but life is getting in the way too much recently for stuff like that, and I do apologize. But I think I read somewhere that this is coming up on his 11th or 12th consecutive start in the league for Aston Villa.
Where's Stato when you need him?
Where's Stato when you need him? Yeah, I'll fact check myself in a moment. When I get you to talk in a moment, but Leon Bailey, I think, could come in there. And the reason I think this is a good game is because last year we had at the start of the season we had great success dragging Cody and Tarkovsky left and right. Leon Bailey can do that for all his frustration. He can do that, and his pace can obviously get in around them as well. So there is something along those lines that we can work with regards but I still think the Buendia starts. I still think it is Buendia. Buendia did start against Arsenal, didn't he?
I can't remember.
I think I might have said Bailey. He might have started 12 games in a row, but obviously Bailey hasn't. I think I was talking about Buendia. But I'm going to fact check myself here now in a moment, Paddy. But what do you think? Do you think Bailey might get do you think it'll be when Bailey might be started from the off at the weekend, or do you think he'll be kept in reserve? Because as you mentioned, he has been a pretty decent sub from the bench.
Yeah, well, I didn't say he's been a decent sub from the bench. I said Duran has.
Oh, was it?
Pardon me. But I think we need guys who have a stomach for a fight today or on Saturday, and I don't envisage that Bailey is the man for that. So it wouldn't be my choice. I would stick with Buendia for this one. I think he'd rattle them and rile them up a little bit, and leave a bit of space there for Bailey to come on later in the game maybe and freshen it up. Yeah, not for me. Can't see it.
All right, Paddy, keep talking. I'm nearly finished. I've nearly got.
What I'm gonna do something strange, Neil. I'm gonna plug somebody else's podcast here.
Yes, I meant to say that to you as well, and I had to listen to it today. Go for it.
Okay, so Michael Calvin has a podcast called Michael Calvin's Football People, and today his episode. Now you got to go about 30 minutes into it, and then he does a full 20-25 minute interview with Unai Emery. It's a really, really insightful piece looking into the history of the Emery family and where he comes from and what Basque people are like and how much he eats, sleep and breathes football. So it like I've known Michael Calvin's work for a very, very, very long time. He's a Millwall reporter, believe it or not, back in the day, big Millwall fan. And he's when I came across, I listen to him every week when I'm on my travels. But when I opened it up today and it was Unai Emery, I was actually delighted. So you'll find it on any podcast provider. Michael Calvin's Football People, well worth a listen.
Yeah, I did listen to it today, and I found it. I actually didn't finish it. I was listening to it just before we came on. Listened to it, watching the embers of the United and Barcelona game. But Paddy, I must apologise to our listeners. I told a lie. Emi Buendia hasn't. He's not in line for his 12th start in a row. He certainly isn't. He's in line for his 13th start in a row, Paddy. He's had his 12 in a row already. It's 13 in a row in the league. Yeah. He went back all the way back to Brentford. So back to Aaron Danks. Aaron Danks brought him in. And since then, he's started every game since then, from what I can see. So yeah, bar the Stevenage game. And did he start that? The United, yeah, I think he started the United. No, he didn't. He came off the bench in both cup games. But yeah, he's and in that time he scored 2 goals, and again, once against Tottenham and once against Leeds. So he also has a good scoring record against Everton. I had to because I'd seen so many teams' names there, and I forgot who we were playing. He's a good scoring record. Remember, he scored a header. Was it last season, start of the year? And we played Everton. And it was an awful game, absolutely awful game. I remember that one, and he scored this header at the front post. But yeah, I'd ask a question there: will Traore get any minutes? Could.
Who knows?
Forgot all about him. Going to be honest, forgot all about him.
And I think until we see him on the pitch, we'll keep forgetting about him, because the minute I saw the comment, I went, yes, it might be a game for Tricky Traore to be in there. So yeah, they would not like that those Tarkovsky and Cody would not like him running at them and the unpredictability of him.
Seamus Coleman wouldn't either at 35 years of age or whatever he is.
Yeah, well, he'd probably be on the opposite side, wouldn't he? But anyway, it's definitely one that, you know, we're all looking forward to seeing when it eventually does come about. Was he on the bench last weekend?
He was, if I remember rightly, he was. Yeah. But he's obviously got a full week's training under his belt now, and it's interesting. The only outfield player that's injured at the moment is Diego Carlos, and he's back on the grass. We saw the photographs of him. Everybody jump. I saw the photographs with everybody jumping up on top of him, and he's back. I was there. Stop! You fuck up his leg again. Get off him. Leave him alone. But so he's back. The only actual injuries that we have at the moment are Jed Steer and Robin Olsen. They're the only 2 injuries that we have at the moment, outside of Diego Carlos, obviously, who's who is long term. But so we've got a full deck to shuffle from at the minute, and it will be interesting. And I'm looking forward to the team sheet tantrum this weekend. As if you guys are new to the podcast, first of all, if you're new to the podcast, thanks for joining. Thanks a million. Do you know what? I streamed this on Twitch today, and the main reason I did it was because I forgot that I had a Twitch account. So I streamed it on Twitch. And I must say that, the first thing that we get from Twitch is somebody from dogehype.com looking for us to go in there to grow our so that's thank you very much for the first ever comment to come through to us on Twitch. If there is anybody else there that has commented on Twitch, no, there isn't. We haven't seen them yet. But I just said I'd do it, see if there was anyone living out in Twitch world with regards to this. If you know of anyone who would like to watch us on Twitch and is vehemently against YouTube, well, you can now tell them that we stream on Twitch as well for them, just for them. Anyway, team sheet tantrum for those of you who are new to the podcast, thank you very much. As I said, please give us a thumbs up and please subscribe. Team sheet tantrum will be here with you guys on Saturday at 1:50. That is 13:50, and it is also 10 to 2 as well, but it's all GMT. So if you're in any other part of the world, you got to do your calculations with regards to GMT. For a team sheet tantrum at the weekend. I know Paddy doesn't give predictions for games prior to seeing the team sheet, but I'm going to give my prediction and I'm going to stick with it because I've given it 3 times already since yesterday. And I think that this is going to be a low scoring game. I think if you were to blow the whistle and have Sean Dyche and Unai Emery walk up to the centre circle and shake hands on a draw at the start of this game, I think they'd probably do it. I think both of them, Dyche needs to keep the points rolling in, and Unai Emery needs to break the duck of 3 losses in a row. I think they'd both take a draw. But saying that, I'm going to go with an Aston Villa 1-0 win. I think we will be a lot more resolute at the back. I think that Unai Emery even mentioned it. He said that he can't figure out our home form, why we're so open and laissez-faire at home, yet we've been better away from home. And I think that Unai Emery will set us up, be hard to break down. And if we can keep this to 0-0, I think we will score because we've scored goals under Unai Emery. We've scored goals pretty much since Steven Gerrard has left the club. And I think that we'll score goals at the weekend. So I'm going to go with 1-0 Aston Villa as my result for this. What do you think, Paddy, my mad?
I wouldn't be as confident this far out, but when did he join? They've beaten Arsenal 1-0, they've beaten Leeds 1-0, and they lost 2-0 to Everton or to Liverpool. We've conceded 11 goals in 3 games. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So to predict something this at this stage, geez, like
we've conceded 11 goals in 3 games, and 8 of those were against the top 2 in the league. You know,
and that's 7 of them. 7 of them.
7 of them. Sorry, yeah, 7.
Yeah. And I already said all Everton's games would be 0-0, 1-1 or 1-0. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting a low scoring game. However that pans out, we'll see what happens Saturday and see how optimistic I'm feeling when we see the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Bit of shorter one this evening, but just number one because of the time. It's 10:30 at night, and it's a Thursday afternoon. It's a school night. But I do have a podcast I might drop tomorrow. I'm going to come back with, and I know some of you won't like these, and I know I'm going to get pelters from, we weren't linked with this, and we weren't linked with this fella, and why are you saying this, and newspapers are full of shit, and everything like that. Never too early to start looking at players that we've been linked with. So I've got somebody that I think is a that we were linked with last week, that I've done a small bit of digging around on, that has a link to Aston Villa as well. So I might drop one of those tomorrow, and might start dropping one a week from here on in, because I like doing them. And the majority of you guys like listening to them. So if you do, they're on their way back again. But until then, guys, we will be back with Team Sheet Tantrum Saturday at 10-2. That is 1:50 and 13:50 as well, depending on what way our clock is set up. Really appreciate all of you for watching and for listening. You know, we love coming on here. I love all your comments, and to Matthew Hanlon as well. Again, really appreciate that. Forgot to say it. It came in prior to the podcast. Love you, Matt. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Matt.
As I say, that's I really appreciate it. We'll be back on Saturday. We may not have a post-match on Saturday, but then again, we may. It's not due to the result. It's due to whether I might be whipped away. I bang on the full-time whistle to go somewhere. So we may not have a post-match.
I'm also struggling too, so I won't be stepping in for you either.
You're struggling too. So we will let you know. I'll know anyway for the Team Sheet Tantrum. So if anybody's waiting for a post-match,
we might have a more reserved after-match later in the weekend.
Yeah, or I might be doing it from the car, one or the other. We'll see. Depends on what way the game goes. But listen, thanks very much, everybody, for watching and listening. If you know of anybody you think might like this, please push it out their way. We're exactly 100 people away from 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're at 4,900. If you know of anyone, please push this out there. Please like it, share it on Twitter, wherever you see the notifications for this. I just really appreciate it. Appreciate that. It's just a complete another vanity project to get to 5K subs. So, and that's full transparency. That is full transparency. But thanks so much for everything you do. Gotta go. 10:30. We'll see you on Saturday. Stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.